Hello and welcome. Many years before Deadpool or Harley Quinn would become cheeky, self-aware characters, there was Ambush Bug. He began as a straight-up, wisecracking supervillain that was mischievous, like Batmite or Mr. Mixius Pitlick. But unlike those two, the Bug quickly seemed to understand his place within the DC universe. He became anarchy personified, and like his insect name, he became a pest to everyone he encountered. While briefly working on the Defenders at Marvel, Keith Giffen suggested an oddball violent character who referenced pop culture called Lunatic. Apparently, this was a character he created in high school and wanted to revive it for a wide audience. The writer, David Anthony Kraft, was good with the idea, and the character, air quotes, debuted in Defenders number 51. Lunatic and his civilian identity was then seeded throughout the next few issues, until making a full appearance in Defenders number 55. Beyond presenting the idea, Giffen never worked on Lunatic. Being unhappy at Marvel, he left and started working at DC, notably on Legion of Superheroes. However, the idea of a violent but amusing character stayed with him. Eventually, he took the more violent aspects of the character and put those in Lobo. All the pop culture, self-aware characteristics were saved for Ambush Bug. As a side note, in the 1997 Amalgam Universe one-shot, Lobo the Duck, the character, Ambush the Lunatic, is a reference to the character Giffen created for the Defenders. End of side note. The Bug's debut was in DC Comics Presents number 52, which was a team-up between Superman and the new Doom Patrol. In that issue, the Bug is a huge annoyance and a self-proclaimed bad guy. With the help of robot insects, he teleports around being a nuisance. This bad guy persona will remain in his next appearance in DC Comics Presents number 59. Here he steals Superman's cape and generally annoys everyone. Due to being curious and ridiculous, he activates the Phantom Zone projector and ends up being trapped. In a recurring theme for the character, this is never resolved. It's just ignored. His next appearance is in Supergirl number 16. While Giffen has no involvement beyond drawing the cover, the Bug remains on brand. But he's now trying to be a superhero. He stops some minor crimes, and then mistakes Supergirl for Superman. After a number of misadventures, Supergirl arrests him. It ends with a light fourth wall breaking moment where the Bug recognizes Supergirl in her civilian identity. Ambush Bug's next 3 appearances happen in Action Comics. He stars in a lighthearted backup feature. It's here that he becomes the character he'll always remain. It's also the first time the classic creative team will work together on the character. Keith Giffen will plot and draw the story, Robert Loren Fleming plots and writes the dialogue, and Bob Oxner will be the inker. The one final element is the editor, Julius Schwartz. Schwartz was the Superman editor for many, many years, from 1971 to 1986 to be exact. He was rather influential and had a reputation of being very particular with Superman and his usage. So he must have enjoyed Ambush Bug and didn't mind the occasional joke at his expense. Now here's where we have to pause and acknowledge that Schwartz was not a great man, despite the industry accolades he's usually afforded. He was, allegedly, using platform-friendly terminology, overly friendly in a non-consensual capacity with a number of women. When Schwartz retired in 1986, he was given an honorary title by DC. He attended conventions on behalf of the company as a goodwill ambassador. He was their version of Stan Lee. Any allegations that arose were, allegedly, dismissed or suppressed and went unaddressed during his lifetime. While it's not something I intend to explore further in this video, I couldn't breeze past it either. After all, Schwartz was the editor and sometimes comedic target in a good portion of the Bug's history, so he's kind of integral. In Action Comics, we get a potential origin for Ambush Bug. But that origin turns out to be a dream Superman is having, so its validity is highly questionable. His actual origin will remain completely ambiguous and become the subject of an issue of Secret Origins a few years later. Although Ambush Bug's name, Irvin Schwab, would become canon. and it's likely a jab at the editor, Julius Schwartz. But I don't know that for certain. That's just what I suspect. After Action Comics, the Bug finally gets two miniseries, Ambush Bug and Son of Ambush Bug. To say either of them had a story or anything beyond a basic taped-together plot would be an exaggeration. It's basically a bunch of skits starring the character. They kind of have a manic, self-aware energy. It's a bunch of gags stitched together into something vaguely coherent. Yes, there are recurring characters, such as Johnny DC, the fact-checker of the DC Universe, Cheeks, the Wonder Toy, who is the Bug's adopted silent sidekick, and Argyle, a sentient sock. However, the best guest appearance goes to Darkseid. The final page of every issue in the first series promises a crossover with that New Gods baddie, but that never happens. It's just a marketing ploy to sell more comics. This complete randomness continues in the one-shot special, Stocking Stuffer, which was released between the first and second miniseries. All of these are gentle pokes at the industry, and some wild, disconnected hijinks entirely focused on superheroes, and DC in particular. At best, one can say there's a vague continuity, with recurring characters and a plot thread that's so thin it's practically invisible. None of these issues are trying to be a deconstruction of the genre, exploring deep, satirical themes, which is perfectly fine. They're simply comedic skits, directed at comic fans who enjoy obscure references. It's just goofy fun and nothing else. The Secret Origins issue finally has something resembling a plot. The Bug, now living in a home for forgotten heroes, is told by the National Bureau of Origins that he's legally obligated to provide an origin, or one will be provided for him. The Bug goes through a number of scenarios, and in the end, his actual origin isn't revealed. The best issue of Ambush Bug would be the Nothing Special, which ironically would end up being his last notable appearance for over a decade. Unlike almost every other Ambush Bug story, Nothing Special has an actual plot. In it, the Bug has been out of work and unused since his prior miniseries 6 years ago. He goes to a variety of DC characters looking to join their comic. Of course, no one wants anything to do with him. There's a crass running gag where every character the Bug visits is just getting out of the toilet. Anyway, the Bug discovers that Julius Schwartz, who at this point had retired, had become DC's Goodwill Ambassador. The Bug figures he's perfect for this job, and he tries to replace him. Unfortunately, Schwartz is an undying, timeless entity that ruthlessly holds onto the title. No matter how far into the future Ambush Bug goes, Schwartz is still alive. In a rare appearance, Death of the Endless shows up at the end of time and avoids taking Ambush Bug's life. It isn't his time to die. In fact, he's basically irrelevant. Notably, in an equally rare moment, the Bug also encounters Morpheus. Both characters were strictly controlled, and it was highly unusual for either, let alone both, to appear in a comic that wasn't Sandman. After that, the ending becomes a mess of weirdness, as the Bug tries to take part of the current DC event, Eclipso, The Darkness Within, which then becomes a hunt to capture the head of Julius Schwartz. It's complete anarchy, and barely coherent. Honestly, it may be the result of one of the issue's running gags. Giffen and Fleming are periodically seen plotting the series while getting drunk. The ending really has that intoxicated 2 in the morning energy to it. For better or for worse, after that special, Ambush Bug slid deep into obscurity. He would make background Easter egg appearances here and there, but for the most part, he went entirely unused for just over 15 years. The only notable cameo appearance was in 2001. In one panel, Ambush Bug is seen as a member of the Justice League of Anarchy. To the best of my knowledge, this oddball version of the League is never seen again. In 2008, Fleming and Giffen would return with a 6-issue miniseries, Ambush Bug, Year None. One of the jokes being, it's technically a 7-issue series, but the 6th issue is never actually published. At best, one can describe Year None as a gentle parody of the DC Universe, following Infinite Crisis and 52. In my opinion, it ironically highlights how a character like Ambush Bug really doesn't work in modern times. But I believe that irony is possibly unintentional. The humor seems dated, and the numerous obscure references don't really work. Like the original 2 miniseries, it wanders in a stream of consciousness manner. But there's just something missing. Sadly, and I hate to say it, but it seems joyless. Honestly, I think the point of the miniseries is the observation it ends on. Ambushbug is kicked out of the DC universe because there's no place for a character like him. In part, this eviction reads like respect for the creators, who are given the opportunity to bring the Bug's history a sense of closure, and to retire him with some semblance of grace. However, it's also a perfect, sad commentary on the industry. The Bug questions the direction of DC, and he's actually glad to no longer be a part of it. I think this attitude permeates the miniseries. While the creators, Giffen and Fleming, are glad to have the opportunity to give Ambushbug a sense of closure, they're equally unhappy the state of the industry is so serious that permanently removing Ambushbug has become necessary. Read another way, there's no place for happiness in the DC universe. It's grim, deadpan, and somewhat cruel. So Ambushbug has to leave. It's a very metatextual, melancholy moment. As a critique, yeah, it's spot on for the time period. Especially when you factor in 2 characters from the fun-loving Giffen and DeMatteis Justice League, Blue Beetle and Maxwell Lord, had been straight up murdered. This is further exacerbated by Sue Dibney's fate in Identity Crisis, and the fallout that affected her partner, Elongated Man. All those perfectly happy characters, who Giffen had worked on for a number of years, were recently eliminated in the most tragic manner possible. That had to have been on his mind, and I think that distaste is reflected in Year None. It seems to haunt the series, and ultimately, that's what contributed to the lack of joy. Following Year None, Giffen included Ambushbug as a minor recurring character in his revival of Doom Patrol. But for the most part, the Bug has slid back to obscurity and has once again become an Easter egg in comics and other media. All things considered, that may be for the best. His time has come and gone, and he's possibly a quaint relic of the 80s, which is perfectly fine. Not all characters need to work at all times. Culture changes. Sensibilities and attitudes change, and sometimes it's okay if some characters can't make that transition. Let them rest in peace. Thank you for watching. Currently, I'm running a promotional campaign for new Patreon members. Over the next week, when you sign up, you'll get your first month for half price on all tiers, except Justified and Ancient. Benefits include my regular posts of what's coming next and what I'm working on in the future. There's also a few exclusive or uncensored videos available, such as the early history of Strange Brain Parts. And, of course, you'll get your name listed in the credits. Use the code you see on screen and support this channel. Naturally, I'd like to thank all my current supporters on Patreon and YouTube. I greatly appreciate that ongoing support, especially during this time of year when ad revenue takes a steep decline. I appreciate every single one of you. Thank you. Extra special thanks to Andrew Barton, Brian Deaton, Chapel Pluto, Constant Disappointment Records, Corey Drew, Doug Eberly, Edward Clayton Andrew, Francis De La Cruz, Green Man, James Graham, Jeff Nicholson, John Gaunt, John Nyukes, John Woolham, Matt Marino, Michael Shelton, Odin Ashcroft, Phil Sagan, Plutocracy, Ruby St. Dennis, Russell Bull, Shad Miller, Sicken, Spencer Estes, and Tom Granis. You are all justified and ancient. He said, "Will you defeat them, your demons, and all the non-believers, the plans that they have made? Because one day I'll leave you a phantom to lead you in the summer to join the Black Parade."